Was involved there, but it's an interception. It's George Bridge, it's a breakaway try. Philly somersaulting now. Big George is going again, he's backheeled it.
Oh, backheel!
And he's got it.
Little idea at the end for the Barbarians. You know what? It could work. Here's Bridge and the Barbarian fingerprints all over that try.
This episode is sponsored by Wolf Craig Distillers, a new premium spirits brand headed up by two of the titans of the whiskey industry, Richard Patterson OBE and Ian McMillan, both master blenders. Their limited edition first release, Wolf Craig 30-year-old premium blend, is now available on their website, www.wolfcraig.com. Go and check it out. Wills, you're a man who has checked this out, both the whiskey and the gin.
I've been lucky enough to try it, Rory, as well. I've been lucky enough to try it. It is very rare that you get two absolute legends of the whiskey industry come together to create a blend, and they have done so here in this 30-year-old. I'm telling you now, that's some smooth drinking right there.
And who doesn't like a couple of gin and tonics followed by a classy whiskey?
Wouldn't that be nice? We'll enjoy that at the World 15 game where the Barbarians play them on the 28th of May. That'd be lovely. And they've got some serious ambassadors kicking about with the likes of Greg Laidlaw, Finn Russell, and recently announced retired Stuart Hogg. So good team over at Wolf Craig. And thanks for sponsoring the episode.
Strong stuff.
Check them out.
Thanks for the sponsorship. So here we go. Change of scene. Barbarians, a touring side with tech issues in the other studio. We've moved, we've improvised, adapt, overcome the way that the Barbarians do.
Well, Hugo said it was because he preferred red.
That's it.
You said you didn't like the colour of the cushions. You said, yeah.
Arsenal for life, eh? top of the league.
So that's the real reason.
That is exactly it.
Arsenal for life, Quinn's man for life, England, British and Irish line, and Barbarian. But Oogs, we start every show with the same question to the former players, and that's what the Barbarians means to you.
I think you summarised it perfectly when you said it's one of the most exclusive clubs that you can play for. For me, I think everyone grew up watching the Barbarians. It was part of everyone's upbringing if you're involved in rugby. And you've got so many legends. Like the shirt's iconic, of course. It's one of the most recognisable shirts out there, but it's the people and the values that really make it. So Gareth Edwards, probably one of the most famous Barbarians of all time, who sold his Barbarian shirt from 50 years ago. That that famous try against the All Blacks, sold it for £250,000, which is... I mean, that's a lot of cake.
You reckon it shouldn't have been a try?
No, well, it should have been a try. If we had TMOs back in those days, I reckon there's 2 forward passes and he probably should have given it himself. But you kind of wonder, was he thinking in 50 years' time?
£250,000.
£250,000.
That went to charity though, didn't it? That probably won't make it in.
I don't know what he's done with it, but he certainly deserved it. I mean, he's a legend. He's Sir Gareth Edwards. But I think the conversation around it and that try 50 years ago, people still talk about it today. It's one of those ones that is able to straddle so many different generations. You'll have teenagers that'll be aware of that. You'll have people from his generation clearly aware of that. And you reckon in the next 10, 20, 30, however many years, that'll still be one of the most iconic moments in the Barbarians jerseys.
Yeah, for sure. And so your Baba's experience, obviously, first time you played against the Babas.
Yeah.
So what are your memories of that? Do you remember the opponents? Do you remember the players who you're playing against? And I guess the mindset going in against the side whereby you never know what they're going to come up with.
It's mad. Now I've done it both sides, you realise how much of a hypocrite you are. And the team talk is just the total opposite, because everyone, in any team environment, you suffer from Stockholm Syndrome. So you're England, you're getting beasted all week, you're like fighting to jostle for position, get on tour and impress the coaches, and they've been on the smash all week. They don't care. This is a jolly. Look at them in their fancy kit. they've probably not trained, we want it more, all the rest of it. And then you look at the team sheet and you're like, oh, they're actually world class.
Yeah, they don't need to train.
They don't need to train. Like, it's the end of the season. If you don't know how to play rugby by the end of the season, like, what are you doing in the first place? So that's the psyche from an English perspective. And I guess the pressure's on you to perform. You're representing England and you've got more to lose.
Yeah.
I've seen lots of careers ruined playing for England against the Barbarians. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you can go through it. I won't name them. Then you play for the Barbarians and you're having the best of times. You are. You're just having the best of times. And then the conversation is, look at them lot, probably doing Broncos Monday, Tuesday. They'll be knackered. All the pressure's on them. It's about us and just expression. Just guys, just go out and enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, well, you're starting to see it creep into rugby though, like that. It's like done a full 180, hasn't it? Because there's obviously a load of clips from the last Bar saw of them singing before the game and things like that. And now you start to see it creeping in. Like, you see a few things on social media about some of the club teams having a bit of a song and a dance before a game and things like that. It's almost like rugby's coming 180, but that's what the Bars was like. It's relaxed, it's chilled in the change room, isn't it?
The foundation of the culture of the Barbarians, you need to twin that with the professionalism in professional sport. You couldn't operate the Barbarians way every single week in a season.
Some of us could. I'll give it a good go, but I'll give it a good go.
It'd be a great experiment. I think there's a trial there. There is a trial there. But in terms, you guys know exactly what it's like. When you feel good, you're more likely to play good, and that's in terms of just the spirit. You don't always feel your sharpest by the time you get to game day, but in terms of how you feel and the players that you play with, and you know there's sheer quality out that, sheer quality within the side. So that fact of it should never be lost. Should absolutely never be lost. So I love it, and you're right. The sense of enjoyment, the way in which people get to know each other, and I always say it. I learn more about someone in a bar of an evening than I would 6 months on the training field.
100%.
You talk about connections and what it means and playing for your mates and all the rest of it. Like, there are ways in which you do it, and socially hanging out is just as important as understanding tactics and fitness and psychology and nutrition, in my opinion.
And from that perspective, I guess, one club man, so your whole club career at Quins, and then obviously England stints, British and Irish Lions tours and so on. But you go into that Barbarians environment for the first time, and you've got some of the players who on the international stage you played against. You're suddenly playing alongside. Do you remember how the invite came about? Because the Barbarians is, of course, invitation only. You're not selected, you're invited to play.
Yeah, so the first time, I think it's 2004-05, and I think there must have just been an injury late doors. Like, midweek I get a call from Will Greenwood, hey, fancy playing for the Barbars? And it's a weird one because the obvious answer is yes, but you've got this image in your head of some duke or prince turn up at your house with a gold-plated envelope, and it's just a call from your teammate. Do you want to come along? I think we're a man down. So, but I went.
Was he the manager, Will Greenwood, or was he?
No, he was on the tour.
Oh, he was actually on the tour. Okay, because I know he's managed a few, hasn't he?
That's right. Yeah, he's been pitch side coached and all the rest of it. But I think they just need a winger, and obviously he was like, oh well, there's this young lad, rookie at Harlequins. He'll offer a bit,
he
maybe.
Goes all right.
He goes all right, and I think he's good value socially. So whip him in, and that's exactly what I did. We played against Scotland, had a brilliant week in Murrayfield, unreal. First time I ever played there, always wanted to go there, was class. And then we went to Georgia straight after the match, and that's one of the things the Barbarians does. Initially I thought I was going to America when they said Georgia. It wasn't.
Georgia.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is cool, go Disneyland.
How long's the flight? Oh, it's only about 2-3 hours. What?
We're going Concord? This is great. How good's the Barbars? Go Concord everywhere. But Tbilisi wasn't on my bucket list, but it's cool to be able to go to a place you wouldn't perhaps originally think about going. So we flew over, was slightly dishevelled, landed, get onto the coach. Before you get onto the coach, you had to have a shot, which, it goes one of two ways. Either helps or it just sends you into a hole. And I think the bus was pretty divided that day. I remember Will Skinner, who played at Leicester, played at Harlequins, my captain when he retired. I think we had a training session. We had a good night out or good day. It was like lunch that turns into dinner, dinner that turns into breakfast. One of them ones. And we had a day off, so I think some people went and played golf or all the rest of it. We had a 3-hour bus journey, and it was like 35 degrees. The aircon decided it wasn't going to work. Like you're just in a hole. You've got 35 larger than average size human beings stuck on a coach, hungover, no aircon. And I've forgotten who it was, but there was a rule made that you weren't allowed to sleep.
Oh, mate.
You weren't allowed to sleep.
Was there a few beers on the bus, though?
There was a couple of beers on the bus. Yeah, I mean, it's important to stay hydrated.
Yeah, exactly.
So Skins is, in fact, Paddy Howard.
Yeah.
Aussie,
Howard,
legend. Like
Leicester
legend.
Tigers.
He was our coach, right? Yeah. So the night before we'd gone out, Bobby Skinstad is all coming back now. Was our captain. We went to one of the delegates' houses. So we had a tour. I can't.
That's usually the bit that they
We
go,
open the box here.
Yeah, I can't. Right, how can I put this?
It's weird because there's a lag between like my mouth moving and the memory coming back, and I realised where I was going next, and I was like, I don't know. This is a Barbars podcast after dark, maybe. But anyway, so we've been to Delegate's house, had this really nice function. And we had a night out. Really, really good fun. But Will Skinner, rookie, overexcited, surrounded by legends, offered a drink, you take a drink. And he took every drink that was offered to him. Paddy Howard, Australian legend, won titles at Leicester. He carried Will Skinner home. And so he'd had very little sleep, got on the bus, you can't sleep. And all you want to do when you're in a hole is just sleep. Yeah. And he just got punished every time his eyes went to close. He got knocked to the back of his head, the back of his seat. He battled the whole way through it. That tour was brilliant fun. We didn't have loads of rules, but the one rule we did have was don't go out the night before a game. And that's fair enough. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we'd gone out for dinner, Skins and I, who was still recovering. We went out for dinner, just a couple of us, and we didn't want to go out in a big group because we thought if someone, do you want a glass of wine? You're probably going to have that glass of wine. It escalates. So Skins and I just went for dinner, and we had a couple of beers, and that was it. And we thought Bobby Skins, that South African legend, got to abide by his rules. Went for dinner. As we walked out of the restaurant, there's a bar just there. We're like, okay, we'll just have one. Yeah. We'll just have one and we'll go home. As we walk in, Bobby Skinstad is stood on top of the bar with his top off, swinging his shirt around to his head. And it was one of them, do you know the Spider-Man meme where he looks at us, we point at him, we think, well, you're the captain, you set the rules, but you've broken the rules, so we got involved in that. Anyway, thankfully, it didn't actually diminish from how we played the next day, so we had a couple of good results. So that was the first time. A 2-week tour, Scotland, then Georgia, brilliant fun. And then the last time I played for Barbars was my last ever professional game. And I wasn't sure if I was going to do it because I had a really good send-off the week before for Harlequins in front of all my loved ones. And I spoke to Lawrence Delalio and he just went, mate, you're a long time retired and playing for the Barbars is extremely special. And he's right. So I was like, okay, cool. You do what the lull does. Or he says.
Yeah. Was there a bit of you maybe that was worried, because we heard from Matt Gitter that Johnny Wilkinson was worried he wouldn't play well in it, and maybe he was worried about the big piss up to then finish on a terrible note and play badly. Was there a little bit of that in there as well? Or
it's weird because you're excited by that, but you're also nervous of it.
Yeah.
Because you know it goes down. And I saw the squad. Joe Rokothoko was in it, and he's someone I looked up to as a young, like, budding winger, absolute legend. And the chance to turn down an opportunity of like being able to play with someone you looked up to as wicked. George Smith was our captain, and I admire him as a rugby player, but I don't know what he's like as a bloke.
Yeah.
So what better way to do it than by playing for the Barbarians, get to play against England, and we did it. And George Smith, I've never seen someone more professional, but more socially engaged and really grapples with the ethos of the Barbarians. So
we've got to imagine what socially engaged means then. Socially engaged.
So our tour started in England. I'm a London boy. Oh, Hughes. Well, I guess you'll sort out the social diary. So I just got embedded as social secretary. So the pressure of playing for the Barbarians is one thing. Being social secretary for the week was a far greater pressure. So I took him to the ship in Wandsworth.
Nice.
Nailed it. Sunday night.
Sunday.
nailed it. Absolutely brilliant. The night before we'd been at Inferno's. Mixed bag. Mixed bag.
We'll get on to Inferno's in a bit.
But it is what it is. So we did the ship, and then I think we had a flight to Dublin at like 8:30 in the morning. So guys had been to bed, met up at Heathrow, and pint of Guinness. It's important to embrace culture of Ireland. So we did that. We had a pint of Guinness. We landed. We had a few beers. And the next day we then had a few more beers because we had a golf day. And then I remember coming down to breakfast the next day, and you just check in with Skips, and George Smith was the first person to be up every day. First person. So it didn't matter what time you got in. It's like kids. They don't care what time you get in. They'll just be up at the same time, and it's early. That's George Smith. So I've come down, it's day 4, and I've walked in, and I was like, so what's the schedule for today? Surely, like, we've got a big game against Munster, Ireland, actually, on the Thursday. I said, are we going out today? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. I was just checking. No, I was struggling. But he went out that day. We played against Ireland, beat Ireland at Thomond Park, and he was the best player on the pitch by a country mile. I just don't know how he's able to do both to a world-class level. How
good is that? And Joe Rocothoko as well. What a man.
Like, just training with the guy. Yeah. Training's training, but training with special players hits different. But then you train with special players, and that's cool. But actually, going for dinner, hanging out, playing cards in the hotel room, because we're obsessed with like the talents of people, where I want to engage with the people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can go onto YouTube and just watch you, Joe. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I played against you. Like, I know what you can do. What you like, you're a good bloke. Because, I've retired, Rory, you've retired. Being talented at rugby is wicked, but when you retire and you're not that rugby player, like, the only thing you're left with is like you as the person. So actually hanging out and seeing what they're like is cool. And when you've put someone on a pedestal in terms of their talent, and then you get to know them, and they're equally as brilliant, you've made it, haven't you?
I think that's one of the things as well, the social element, that human connection. Some of the list of this, Brad Thorne, George Smith, Adam Jones, who you'll know well from Quins, a young Pablo Matera, Joe Rocothoko, all of these names
was
are guys
Parise
from...
in there somewhere?
No, he wasn't on that, but Pablo Matera, we had a few Argentinian players on that, but Pablo, he was young.
He was maybe 20 odd.
Yeah, he was like me maybe in 2004, but actually he was a bit more advanced than that. But, English isn't his first language, but they make such an effort to get involved and be involved socially and be part of the team. And they probably have to make more of an effort than anyone. Thursday, team got announced, absolute gun team out.
Yeah.
And Robbie Dean's like, Hugo, you've played in England for the last 14 years. Give us a bit of insight into the players. And I'm like, they're soft.
Yeah. Slagging off all your mates.
Some of my mates, like wicked players, like, mate, they're soft, they're young, they're inexperienced. We can get right over the top of them. They're not going to be as physical as us. I think the pressure of the occasion's going to weigh too heavy. We've just been in Ireland, out in Thomond Park. We got pumped.
Of course, crikey.
We got pumped, but it feels weird.
Oh no, you must have really enjoyed the booze too much then. How many Guinness did you have that week with that team to get pumped? You must have done the old, you've broken the rule and gone out the night before.
It was a strange one because we went Thursday, Sunday. Like, playing 2 international matches in 3 days is really tough, especially when you've enjoyed yourself to the extent that we did. But Thursday, beating Ireland at Thomond Park, historic venue against a brilliant side, I reckon mentally we may have just switched off a little bit. Like, we've got a big one. Of course, we're excited about going to Twickenham, 60,000 or whatever it was, but I don't know. I think, as you'll both know, it's hard to peak twice in 3 days. Like, emotionally and physically. Yeah. There was lads that were doubling up. You rotate the squad, but to come off the high of Ireland, which you celebrate that victory, and then try and pull yourself off the ceiling, recover, and then go against incredibly motivated England side at home at Twickenham, that was difficult.
Who was your roommate on some of these trips?
It was an interesting one for me, 2015, because I played for Lions in 2009, and that third test, just scoring intercepts, like that's the moment I take away and probably cherish the most out of my whole career. But the person that threw the pass that I intercepted was Fine and Dolafia, and he's now my roommate.
Is that right?
Really? in
Sure,
London.
there's
The beers
some
were on you, were
tactics in
they?
Yeah, I was like, cheers, mate.
Straight in the room. Cheers, buddy. Big cuddle.
Great to see you.
Oh,
Great.
really?
Thanks for that moment.
And he obviously remembered that because it was.
Of course, yeah. He didn't play the first 2 tests, came in for the third test, and then, yeah, like that moment of intercepting it and sprinting away for 70 yards was off his pass. But it's just mad that the rugby world is made even smaller by the Barbarians, because in whatever world or realm would I get to room or play with him unless he signed for Harlequins?
So talk to me, like, because I've been there. You go into the room and one of you's in there before the other
Yeah.
one. So you literally walk in. Was it a straight away? Right, we better get this one out of the way. Let's have a conversation. Lying in the bed, just nice to meet you, mate. By the way, thanks for that one.
Yeah, cheers for that. It was a great assist.
Did you bring it up straight away?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, right.
I didn't. We discussed the tour, of course. It's one of them. It's easier to have that conversation after a few beers than sober. Because I don't know this dude. I just know him as a player, wicked player, went on to play for Worcester, and you're just trying to get through that biting point socially. Hi, how you doing? Yeah, really good to see you. Should be a great week. Yeah. And then you're in the ship. Hey, oh no!
Yeah, exactly. Everything comes out.
So you have it a little bit later, but I had a brilliant week with him. I think we stayed up in central London, which was perfect for us because everything's on your doorstep. But it was cool. But isn't it mad, the dynamic? I don't know if that was architected by the Barbarians and just looked at it and went, oh, that'd be interesting. See how they get on. But no, it was wicked to remember.
I guess that, like, the polar nature of those two incidents, right? And rugby, same game but different. 2009.
Yeah.
If you think about that Lions tour down in South Africa, you know, famous, infamous, whatever you want to call it, like it was the most physical Lions tour. It was absolutely incredible.
Stood the test of time. That second test, you can watch that today because you kind of.
Shawsey 10 out was that his 10 out of 10 score?
That's
in the
it.
Times?
I mean, he'd been on 3 tours, and that was his first cap in that second test.
Yeah.
So it was, and he was 37 at the time, which is remarkable. But you can go back and watch games, or you've played in those games. Your memory was that was hard. Then you watch it now and you're thinking, it's nothing like today. But that second test, 14 years ago, is as physical as anything you'll see today. Yeah. It was I mean, I was in the stands watching, but for the lads that played, it was brutal because I was talking about injuries that game. You had Brian O'Driscoll got knocked unconscious. You had Ron O'Gara, who had a concussion. You had Adam Jones, who dislocated his shoulder. Gethin Jenkins fractured cheekbone, and Jamie Roberts, who broke his wrist. Like,
jeez.
That's as physical as you're going to get in a test match, for sure.
Yeah, we've heard the story about your roommate, but was there anyone else that you had like a preconceived idea of? Because you do. When you play rugby, you played for 14 odd years at Quins. You play against a few people and you're like, oh, God, I'm not sure how he's going to be off the field, and you get this idea of people. But Barbars is a great opportunity to then go, no, actually, he's not what I thought he was going to be. Did you have any of those?
It's often backs against forwards. And Brad Thorne, someone I'd never met before. Like, he's won the World Cup, Rugby League, Rugby Union. He's an absolute great, massive enforcer. But I just thought he was just this obviously brilliantly talented rugby player. I knew nothing about him. I just thought he'd be quite dull. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. He must love rugby that much.
You just love rugby. Like, I don't know anything about you, and he won't know anything about me. He'll just think I'm some show pony from London. Might be his perception. What a wicked bloke.
Yeah.
Wicked bloke. At the end of that week in London, we got given a bit of money for a social event, and we didn't spend all of it, which was great. So I went up to Selfridges to set up a little war ceremony, and I think I bought him a present for best tourist. Like, he was wicked. Just such a good bloke. I wouldn't say I had a negative opinion of him. I was just neutral. I didn't know anything about him.
I played in that World 15 against England in the charity games. So they had ex-military, they had celebrity in the build up to the 15 World Cup in England, and they had it at the Stoop. So it was.
I played in that.
Yeah,
Jamie Lang was playing.
Jamie Lang was playing, and it was Brad Thorne was on our team.
Broke his ribs.
Spent the week with him. That was it. Jamie Lang, like England.
Was that what we were talking about?
Mate, Jamie Lang.
Yeah.
You speak to the dude, right, and he should have won the World. He should have won the World Cup
love
for
him.
England.
I think he's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. He played England under 16s, but he couldn't continue because of bad knee injury.
All right.
One of them.
All right.
His PB in the 100s like 7.3 seconds. he's one of these guys. And in fairness, mate, he's tough.
Yeah.
He's tough. Anyone knows Jamie. He's a reality TV star, successful business person. He's just a barrel of laughs. Got onto the pitch and people were a little bit like, oh, what's this dude going to be like? He played scrum half. Mate, he put himself about and he got counter-attack ball, meandered across the pitch. But I think when you know the game, you know the game, and your vision's maybe just a bit broader.
Yeah.
He's run across the pitch without a care in the world, and Brad has come across, blindsided him, hit him just under his pec, and he's broken 3 of his ribs. And he ended up in hospital that night. But the funniest thing for me about the game, besides Jamie,
I bet he was pretty proud of that though, Jamie Lang. I bet he's told everyone that.
He continued.
Oh, did he?
He kept going.
Oh, fair play to him.
Mate, he played the whole match, and then
Because breaking a rib, I mean, popping a rib's bad enough.
Can't breathe.
Yeah.
He played the game, mate. He made tackles after. It was brilliant. But I remember in that game we had Neil Back was our coach, and he's only got one gear, and it's serious.
Yeah.
His opinion, like having worked with him, is exactly the same as playing against him. He's just a serious dude. And we had Louis Spence in our team that day. Louis Spence.
The dancer.
Yeah.
Performer.
And it was half time, and we were losing. We've got this huddle, and you kind of don't know whether to take it serious because, you know, you've got loads of different people. We had like musicians and all
World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we're in the huddle, and like 2 minutes before we're going out, and Neil Back's like, lads, you've got a rose on your chest. Do you not know what that means? You're playing for England. And it's one of them where I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, this has got to be banter.
Yeah.
Like, it's a charity match. Come on, leave it off. Yeah. But I don't want to be the first person to break. So you just, you know, when you just give the eye up, is anyone on the same wavelength as me? But for a lot of people, it's the first time they've represented England. So this is really serious. And he's given this flipping Any Given Sunday speech at half time. You're just like, leave it off. Like, we're just trying to have fun here. Like, it'd be great if we won. And then, like, he then storms out, slams the door, and I'm still just like trying to stay focused. And Louis Spence goes, "That's right, guys. Let's get those wankers." It's exactly what we needed. Nothing technical. It was just like that. But him saying it in the way in which you can imagine he'd say it, it was like, oh, I just needed that because I'm trying to have fun here, guys.
That is so good. Well, that's what we were talking about, maybe because Eddie Jones is involved, obviously, in this game on the 28th of May as the coach. So speaking to Gitz about potentially trying to get him over and do a bit of coaching. We could look at trying to get some celebrities involved. Or what do you reckon? Slot Louis Spence in there or Jamie Lang? Who'd you rather?
The comebacks on.
Mate, we're doing warm-ups down the side of the pitch and behind the try line. He's just doing splits. And
I remember that in the warm-up. That's
just
right.
Like
That's so good.
I remember, you talk about Neil Back's seriousness. I'm sure he had... Because, you know, you were supposed to have sort of 3 ex-military guys and like 2 or 3 celebs on at the same time. By the end of the game, you guys were chasing down a lead, and I reckon there were like 13 internationals on field, and then Jamie Lang held out, and then one other celeb who was pretty good at rugby.
Did you do Scalini's? Is it Scalini's? Is that the restaurant?
Yeah.
Did you do that one?
That was brilliant.
Have any performers come in?
Oh, the magician. How good.
For anyone coming in now, they're going to go, oh, we're off to Scalini's, they'll be waiting. We actually got a different one. We were in there, and this woman came in, and we were all at the back, like, having a great time, all laughing and joking, really, really loud. A few bottles of red. And this woman comes through and starts complaining. She's like, I understand you might be professional rugby players and you might be big shots, but we're trying to have a meal through this side of the restaurant, so if you don't mind keeping the bloody noise down. And I'm like looking over, I can see Dave Rennie's face, and he's like, oh, a minute. I'm thinking, this rude bitch. And she's like, so thank you, yeah. And then the next woman's come through and is like, yeah. And I back her up, actually, and starts having a crack. And we're like, what? And then one of them starts going, Mamma Mia, and then off they go into
brilliant.
song. So we were like, little things like that.
Yeah, it is really cool the way in which they organise the week, I've got to say. But creating those little dinners and the performers that come in, the magician is brilliant. He's part and parcel of the Barbarians family, isn't he? Yeah, wicked nights.
That is quite a nice segue, actually. Is a tradition of the show is to be able to tap into an ultimate Barbarians 15. So if you could pick any name from any era of a player who you would like to spend the week with as a Barbarian, who would it have been?
To spend a week with.
What were you? Firstly, what were you thinking beforehand?
Jonah Lomu.
Right, there we go.
Yeah, Jonah Lomu. Yeah,
Big Jonah, like. He's rugby's first ever superstar, and the distance between him and every other player in his position was remarkable. 95 World Cup. I know they didn't win it, but what he did and the legacy he's left, and he was probably the first rugby player globally to transcend our sport. Like, you didn't have to follow rugby to know who Jonah was, which was cool. I never got to play with or against him. Got to meet him, actually, which was very cool. Came and played at Cardiff, and we know the illnesses that he really struggled with, but it was really cool. And I played 11, Jonah was 11, and as a boy, like, growing up, it was obvious as to who I wanted to be like. I was nowhere near what he was like, and I don't think there've been many players to ever emulate what he's been able to do, but he was a very obvious icon to try and follow and be just like, because he was just a large-in-life player, metaphorically and physically.
If you had to pick a forward and a back today for the 28th of May game against the World 15 for the Barbars right now, who do you have in there? Don't worry about whether they make quarterfinals on that. Forget about everything. 2 players, forward and back, right now.
If I go back in time, I'd have picked Andy Powell as a forward. I toured with him with the Lions. Relentless.
Yeah, but I'm talking players that are playing right now, today.
I think Finn Russell.
You'd have him in there?
100%, because I think he would fully embrace what it means to play for the Barbarians.
Yeah, oh yes, he would.
And he'd put on a show.
Oh yes, he would.
He would put on a show, wouldn't he? And forward, do you know, I think would be wicked fun would be Ardy Surveyor.
Yeah. He was a Barbarian a few years ago before he broke into the All Blacks, and again just shows the kind of springboard. And it was one of those tours whereby he probably came up as part of the wider All Black squad and then was released to play for the Babas in the kind of final game of the tour. And Sean, then you see what he's gone on to be. He again just like this freak.
Yeah.
Talking May 28th, a handful of invites have been sent out to a couple of your former teammates. So obviously Joe Marler there with his arms crossed. He's spoken about the importance and the impact of the Babas on his career and how much he enjoys match week. And I don't think he takes a second to think about accepting the invite. Another one of your close pals, Danny Kerr.
He's never done it. He got stitched up last year.
He was He was invited to play.
Close.
And what about the irony of this? The man who selected him and brought him out of that Babas invite into the England squad is going to be coaching the Babas on this occasion.
He was on his way to Heathrow Airport last year to have a week in the south of France.
In Monaco.
So you can imagine what his bag was packed with. I'd imagine it was fairly light luggage, budgie smugglers, a bit of body oil and shades.
And a few euros.
Because you're going to need that in Monaco. Having to U-turn, no doubt, on the M4 to go back to pack your protein powder, your recovery tight.
Mate, 100%. And then going to the England camp, which it was bittersweet for him, I suppose.
Of course, I mean, like, you want to play for your country, but it's one of those, because that in itself just illustrates what it is. Because playing for your country is amazing. Yeah. That is what everyone wants to achieve and do. But he'd have been going to Penny Hill thinking, this is great. I've not played for England for years. But the draw of playing for the Barbarians and mixing with those people and having that experience is something you kind of need to do to complete your rugby journey. You really do. And I totally get what Joe means, because, and I've said it already, playing professional rugby is a privilege, but it's high pressured. And playing for the Barbarians like reroutes you and almost reboots you in terms of this is what it's all about. Playing with wicked players, wicked coaches in a great environment. But the emphasis of it, at the epicenter of it, is having fun. And sometimes you do just need a reminder of what it is, because the pressures that are put on players today, you almost live in a fog where some of that enjoyment's taken away from it, because pressure can be quite telling. But the Barbarians, of course, there's pressure to perform, but it's just not to that extent. What's put prominent front and centre of everyone is we just want you to have the best time. Because if you're a coach being brought in, it's not about bleep tests and Bronco times and who's strongest on the bench. It's the end of the season. You've got that. How can I... And for Eddie Jones, it'll be a privilege as well. He loves learning off different players, and he's travelled around the world and coaching both hemispheres, Australia, Japan, England, back to Australia again. He'll want to put on the best experience for these guys for those couple of weeks. So it's a challenge for everyone to be able to do that with fun at the heart of it.
That's one of the things as well. We talk from a player's perspective, but the coach's perspective as well. And you look at, Razor Robertson's just coached in the recent November tour of the Barbarians, and he's now just been named the All Blacks coach.
You're saying that was because he did so well with the Barbars?
Well, but
maybe.
Mate, if you're looking for a big job or career move, go and play for the Barbars.
Well, and we joke, but it's been an amazing vehicle actually recently, given the challenges around finances of Worcester and Wasps and the recent tour opportunities for players basically to play some rugby, and a number of them we were just discussing off camera about guys like Marlon Yard and Kieran McDonald and Murray McCallum, all of whom were essentially out of work, and it provided a springboard for them to get back into it. Yeah, Mike Brown. Yeah, another one of
Look at him now, hey?
Look at him now.
Mate,
just re-signed for another year at Leicester.
I'm going till I'm 42.
Mate, really? Oh, my word.
9 more years under the belt, boy.
Tell the knees that.
That's, you talk about on the serious element of sport, whereby the Babas, it gives you that freedom, it connects you with your grassroots rugby, right? Barbarians is normally the second or third team of every rugby fan, right? Because either you support your country, probably a club, but the Barbarians are probably everyone's next best.
Everyone loves the Barbarians.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's all about entertainment. It's sport is entertainment, but the Barbarians does it better than anyone. It just does. I mean, you've got a kick in front of post 20 out and you get booed if you take the penalty. They're like, don't be so boring. Just rip up the rules. And it's like, just have a crack. Let's be inventive. Let's just do whatever, express yourself in whatever form you want to do, but entertain. And that's why you get such big grounds and get such big numbers of people turning up, because they want to be entertained and see the best versions of the superstars of the game that you bring together.
That's really interesting. I think England versus Barbars, you've probably even got England fans there that are going, actually, I quite like the Barbars, I want them to win.
Uggs, you're right at the forefront of the sport. We discussed earlier on, the challenges that the sport faces at the moment, and probably the Barbarians, it is a constant challenge to be able to stay relevant and stay current. How important do you view the Barbarians with regards to the global game and the legacy that is created, and also how it can have a place in the future?
It's a weird question that I know the Barbarians have had to answer for so many years, but I think by asking the question, you're almost perpetuating something that is actually just irrelevant. Like, is the Barbarians relevant? Should it have a place in the game? I think for me it's just a ridiculous question. Speak to anyone that's ever watched it, taken part in it, played it, coached it. And I'd be gutted if there was even 1% of the 130 odd years of history that went, no, it wasn't for me. That's why you get people wanting to come back and do it again. Anyone that buys a ticket, are they disappointed? Absolutely not. It's a different format to what we're used to, but it's a great format. Speak about sport and entertainment. You see the highlights reels of what the Barbarians have been able to produce in over a century is remarkable. Incomparable to what any other international team's been able to put together. So the experience that people get is so unique, and actually I think it allows the sport to be able to capture a brand new audience that may not be immersed within rugby. It's that casual fan that just loves it, that wants a great day out, and they absolutely get that. So I think the question's actually redundant. It's frustrating to even have to answer it, because it's provided me with some of the most enjoyable moments I had in my career, and I was fortunate enough to play for a decent amount of time, and the players that I got to play with. The world is getting smaller, and the Barbarians makes that world, which is getting smaller, an even closer, tight unit. Provided me opportunities to play with like the legends that I looked up to play in stadiums, to travel to places that I've never been to. But that's all through my lens. But I hope that I'm speaking on behalf of the three of us have all been able to do it, and everyone else that has been able to do it, and everyone that's been able to watch it. You know, there's no surprise, and I know I've mentioned once already, that Sir Gareth Edwards jersey is the most expensive jersey that got auctioned off. There's value there into that moment he provided and that jersey. We're not talking about a Johnny Wilkinson drop goal jersey from the World Cup final. Sir Gareth Edwards jersey playing for the Barbarians has gone for more money than any other jersey in the history of our game. It's a massive part of our game and adds significant value to it.
Brilliant stuff. Well said, Oogs. Thanks so much for joining us on the show. And dare I say it, there may be a water carrier position for you.
I'm trying to take that.
Don't
go off it. Don't go off that.
You've not hung your boots up yet.
Social sec, mate. Water carrier / social sec. If it's in London, I'm available.
Keep that week leading into May the 28th, World 15 game for Oogs.
I'm there, mate.
Good man.
Legend. Cheers, brother.
Was involved there, but it's an interception. It's George Bridge. It's a breakaway try. Philly somersaulting now. Big George is going again. He's backheeled it.
Oh, backheel!
And he's got it.
Little idea at the end for the Barbarians. You know what? It could work. Here's Bridge and the Barbarian fingerprints all over that try.